Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. My name is Dean Clover P. Mendoza. Today, I'm going to discuss about the introduction of our topic, which is the post-harvest equipment. So, a little background about post-harvest equipments is this: these equipments are uses after the harvest of our crops. So in terms or in definition, no, that is stated here in the state or stated here in the paragraph is that post-harvest equipments refer to tools and machine used to handle crops after harvest. So when we say that tools and machine that uses or handled crop harvests is that these tools were used or were uses after the harvesting of our crop, which means that all that possible equipment or all that possible machines were uses or utilizes after the post-harvest crop. For example, we have the harvester, we have the thresher, and tractor. It can actually be worked. In terms of harvester, when we look at it, harvester was a very innovative technology that improves the human workforce or the human how do you say that, the human work, right? So harvester was a very helpful when it comes to harvesting crops because it can actually utilizes time in the same way it utilizes the harvesting of our crops, which means that in the harvest of our crops it reduces the losses of it. So that is the reason, or that is the one of the common example of our post-harvest equipment on how it impacted to the people and the work of the people. And according to here in the second statement or in the second sentence is that at the present time, production and consumption of fresh fruits and vegetables is growing globally. Actually, in the present time, where we actually look at it, that the agricultural aspects in terms of fresh fruits and vegetable, it is actually growing. That is according to the data of the agriculture of the Philippines, or the Department of the Agriculture, which we call it the DA, is that their data synthesize or emphasizing that the growth of the production and consumption of fruits and vegetable at the same time is actually growing economically. Why? Because agriculture and this kind of crop is that it is the necessity of a people, which in where it explains that when we say necessities, that it is our everyday food of life. This is where we live, this is how we survive, is that fruits and vegetable to it. And actually this kind of fruits and vegetable were served mainly at the restaurant or even our small businesses, no, that we can see that the food is actually served in this particular term. Sorry, I was in this particular term, right? So globally, according to FAO, the gross production value of the worldwide fresh market was 1.245 trillion USD in 2014. Nevertheless, the 40% of food production is wasted in developing countries. For example, developing countries like Philippines, Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, maybe in some of the Asian countries or part of the small countries in the world, is that because why? Why this statement is stated here? Because some of the countries don't have enough supply of the technology, don't have enough the full utilization of technology, the modern technology, in which it actually where the technology impacted the significantly impacted the agricultural behavior of the society. For example, where there's a technology that utilizes food production, manpower, and the pre-production and the post-harvest production. There's actually a lot of technology out there, especially in Japan, where there's a new technology that's been introduced year after year after year just to improve their agriculture. Even in this part of the Asian country, in Malaysia and Indonesia, actually, even though they are very preservative when it comes to the traditional using of um, agriculture, like equipments of agriculture and tools, is that they are adapting slowly to the new introduction or the new technology that's been introduced to them. That's why many of the US government are actually funding or actually investing on this kind of particular countries, because the technology are actually evolving. Actually, it is actually helping us to this particular agriculture. Agriculture harvesting, agriculture pre-production, agriculture post-production, this kind of particular things, no? Second is that, so yes, it is because it is wasted, because it is some part of our some part of our aspects of life, or not aspects of agriculture, is that there's no actually very benefiting technology that's going to help us on this kind of harvesting. It emphasizes here on how they utilizes the technology, on how the technology is affecting when you don't actually adapt to them, how the technology affecting to the production of a crop, of a single farmer or a big farmer, a small holding farmer or a large holding farmer. Technology comes a very convenient way when it comes to pre-production and post-production harvests of a crop. Okay, so second statement is that it's wasted at the processing level. Likewise, 45% of the root crop, fruits and vegetable, are wasted. FAO has stated several times its concern about food, not a matter of increasing production, but an issue of food management where post-harvest treatments play a major role. This is what I'm saying, that when this is where most part of it, where the post harvest is very crucial when it comes to the losses and income of a person. Why? Because if your post harvest is unlikely a very not good, no, that's the term, not good, in terms of harvesting some crops, it means it reduces something. It means it has a very big impact into the reduction of your harvest. No matter what good is your pre-production is, no matter how good is your fertilizer that's been used during the production of it, no matter how good is the land, no matter how big is the land holding of yours, no matter how good is the process of the pre-production to it, if your post-harvest is a very bad system, it means it has a bigger impact to it in terms of your production of crop harvests. That is why, oh, that's why in this statement that the post-harvest equipment is a very fun way of actually, it is a very crucial way of, in terms of income, in terms of production of it, and not production, in terms of harvests to it, where you can gain money, where you can gain food in terms of it. No? So it is a very, very major rule when it comes to the harvesting of a crop, the post harvest. That's why in this stay or in this discussion, we're going to discuss how important that the post harvest equipment are going to impact the agricultural aspects, the agricultural system, the agricultural method, in terms of how it significantly impact the income of a person, how significantly impacted the crop production of a person or a crop harvest of a person. So the importance of the post-harvest equipment is that first, in the first statement, know that we have the reduces of post-harvest losses. So in the explanation of the post-harvest equipment is as these are the equipments right, these are the equipments right that are being helpful in terms of the post-harvest processes. So it reduces post-harvest losses when we actually utilizes the equipments to the higher level or the higher possible level of it, or the we actually maximizes the full potential of these kind of particular tools and equipments, and it actually significantly reduces the post-harvest losses in terms on how we use it, in terms of how we utilize it, and how we actually manage to get the higher potential of these kind of tools and equipments. Second, this is that maintains the product quality. Why it maintains the product the quality is that when we actually uses this kind of advances, this kind of advanced tools and equipment, it actually maintains the product of quality by doing some a proper utilization, proper processes, proper method of using this kind of particular equipments, the proper way of doing of cropping or harvesting this kind of particular product, it actually maintains the quality of it. No, it is based solely on how a person actually uses this kind of particular equipments. But in terms of where, if we're going to compare about the traditional work on how a person utilizes that kind of traditional work and how a person utilizes this kind of advanced tools and equipments, it means even if that person is not actually very, very familiar in this kind of advanced tools and equipments, it actually denied, or it actually um, if we are going to compare the traditional to a person who is actually very good at using that kind of traditional method, and a person who is very, very bad or being only introduces through seminar in this kind of particular tools and equipments, those who are advanced in technology were going to have a very, very um, advantage to it. It has a very, very larger impact to the maintenance of the product of the quality compared to the traditional way of maintaining the product of the quality or maintaining the harvesting of it. Because as technology evolving, the technology usage of it is that it actually significantly impact a person's work, a person's quality of work, by helping too much the person to it without actually exerting maximum force and effort to that particular equipment and tools. No, It can first it can actually saves time, very convenient to use, very easy to use, and maintain the product's quality to it. And I'm not actually saying that this traditional way of maintaining the product quality in terms of the equipment usage, in terms of the equipment usage, is it has a advantage to it. It gives the sufficient farmer a very sufficient, only a sufficient way of cropping system, a sufficient way of maintaining the product quality. When we say it is sufficient, when we say sufficient, it is actually benefiting, or is actually giving the enough. No, that's the word, the enough of a person to get. No, so in terms, when the word is sufficient to the traditional, then the word of this particular post-harvest equipment is advancement of the technology. No, when we compare to that, so that I'm not actually saying that the traditional way is actually bad, because that's where we came from. Because before the new advancement of technology is being introduced, there's actually a given simple problems to it on why the new technology is being introduced to actually address those particular problems on the traditional way of harvesting and cropping. So third is that it improves shelf life and food safety. Why? So, in terms of the post-harvest equipment, the importance of it is that when we use, these words again, when we use properly the post-harvest equipment, it actually improves shelf life. No, when we say shelf life, longer shelf, no, longer days of reservation, longer days of how can a product, or how can a fruit and vegetable will hold to it. In terms of food safety, how actually safe the food will be consumed by our consumer. So that's how to it. When we utilizes the post-harvest equipment, very clean. When we utilizes our equipment in a maximum potential of effort, in a maximum potential of ourselves, when we actually focus ourselves on those post-harvest equipment, on how we actually use it, then this improves shelf life and food safety, guaranteed 100% of it. So fourth, in terms of the increases market value and a farmer income. Okay, is when we say there's a lot of processes, right? Now there's a lot of processes when it comes to the traditional making of traditional processes. There's actually the transportation, the picking of hand, without any equipment, right? Because there's I'm going to compare you how this actually how actually important is the post-harvest equipment in terms of harvesting, right? So there's actually a process when it comes to traditionally method. No, it goes to your bag or even a cellophane, and it transport again. Then it, all those kind of harvested fruits is that you transfer it again into a truck, and the truck will go to the delivery and go to transportation, right? But in the post-harvest equipment, if you have a lot of equipments, that is very helpful in a way that those kind of equipments are actually benefiting a person, right? Let's say that you have an equipment that gets a food, place it place it segregatedly and beautifully segregatedly clean segregated the food, and transport it into a truck, and the truck will deliver it. So what's the difference? The difference, what is the difference of it is that the process of the food that will be prone on some of those processes in traditional, right? There's a lot of process in traditional. You go, then boom, then you suck it up, then, right? So in terms of, you have a lot of equipment, you go actually into process, you get that food, place it, let the machine do the work, segregated it, transport it into a truck, deliver it, boom, just like that. So that's why it increases the market value on a farmer income to it. So if I'm going to say that, oh, this food was not actually prone to a lot of processes, no? So as the consumer will see that this food is actually beautiful, no? Because that's how the consumer works. That's how the consumer view the food. If the food is very beautiful, it's very good, it's very healthy in a way that it actually attract a person, then that's a market value. That's an income. That's a profit of a person. That's right. So another it is that when it comes to rice now, because there is a very very common way of when it comes to marketing income, right? When it comes to farm, no, when I am the consumer or I am the buyer of that particular rice or the particular harvested rice, is that I'm going to look of what kind of method, what kind of system of process it actually goes through, right? So in terms of harvesting, there's actually a process to that it allows the harvester go, utilizes all the, get all the harvested or get all the production to it into the harvester, compared to the traditional making of sickle lang yung ginagamit, is that it actually losses, during that kind of process, it losses a lot of rice. And that's why many people uses harvester today, because of the convenient and easy to use, even though that the price is much higher. But if we compare the price of a treasure and the price of a manpower that we give traditionally, in traditional method that we give to the it actually not ranging to 2,000 or 1,000 of range of money, or even 5. No, it does not actually has a lot of gap when it comes to the expenses of it.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuhu. Ako po si Nasir Ambulo Jr. mula sa Group 5. And ang i-discuss ko po sa inyo ngayon ay yung part na drying and its importance. And gusto ko lang siyang i-explain sa inyo ng simple pero klaro. So ano nga ba ang drying? Drying is the phase of post-harvest system during which the product is rapidly dried until it reaches the safe moisture level. So 'di ba? After natin mag-ani ng mga crops, for example, yung palay, hindi yan agad pwedeng iimbak, itago, or ibenta. Kailangan muna natin siyang patuyuin. Yung process na yun ang tinatawag na drying. At isa ito sa pinaka-importanteng part ng post-harvest process. Basically, ang goal ng drying ay pababain ang moisture content ng product hanggang sa safe level. Bakit? Kasi kapag basa pa yung palay, sobrang prone siya sa pagkasira. Pwedeng mabulok, magkaroon ng molds o tirahin ng bukbok. At pag nangyari yon, bababa ang quality ng presyo ng ani. Ngayon, para mas malinaw, bigyan ko kayo ng isang halimbawa. Isipin mo, umani ka ng palay. Wala kang dryer o minadali mo, kaya kahit medyo basa pa, isinilid mo na lang sa sako agad. Sa unang araw parang okay pa naman, pero after a few days, pagbukas mo ng sako, amoy panis na. Tapos yung mga butil nagiging madilaw, meaning may discoloration. Hindi na siya magandang tingnan, tapos bababa na ang presyo. Ang tawag dito ay stock burn. Nangyayari to kapag mataas pa ang moisture, tapos kinulong mo agad sa sako or isinilid mo agad sa sako, nag-iinit sa loob, parang pinupugon yung palay. Pagdating sa rice mill, madaming broken grains, mababa ang milling recovery. Minsan, imbis na premium rice, ang labas niya ay para na lang sa feed or reject na totally. So dun pa lang, kita na natin kung gaano kalaki ang epekto ng maling drying. Isang step lang yan, pero pwedeng bumagsak buong kita mo. Ngayon, patungkol naman sa mga drying equipments, later on may magdi-discuss na nito in detail. Ako, magfo-focus muna ako sa importance ng drying process mismo. Una, drying reduces moisture content to safe levels. So kapag naabot na yung tamang level, hindi na madaling masira ang palay kahit itambak pa siya ng ilang linggo. Pangalawa, it prevents spoilage and microbial growth. So kapag walang moisture, walang amag, walang panis. Mas ligtas iimbak, mas mataas ang chance na premium pa rin pag dineliver. Pangatlo, drying is essential for grains like palay. So yung palay, ito yung pinaka-sensitive sa moisture. Kahit konting basa lang, pwedeng masira agad. Kaya kung may process man na hindi dapat escape or minamadali, yung drying na yun. So, drying might look simple pero sa totoo lang, ito yung magde-decide kung kikita ka or malulugi ka. Lalo na sa palay, isang maliit na pagkakamali pwedeng ubos ang value ng buong harvest mo.
Assalamualaikum and good morning everyone. Today I will be discussing the importance of milling. Milling refers to machinery used to process grains and other crops primarily to remove husk bran and other outer layers and to produce a refined product like milled rice or flour. Additionally, milling is the process of grinding and separating grains like wheat, rice, and corn into smaller pieces or flours, improving palatability, reducing cooking time, and creating various food products. There are two types of milling, the dry milling and the wet milling, wherein the dry milling involves grinding and separating the grain without using water, resulting in products like flour, grits, and meal. For the wet milling, the process uses water to separate starch from other components of the grain, often used for extracting starch from maize. The purpose of milling is to make grains easier to cook and consume by separating the edible endosperm or the starchy part from the bran or outer layers and germ or the embryo. There are various milling equipment, but I will only discuss the common ones. First is the rice mill. Rice mill is used for processing paddy or unmilled rice to produce edible white rice by removing the husk and bran layers and sorting and packing the rice for sale. The second one is the hammer mills. Hammer mill is used for breaking down grains into smaller pieces. The third one is the feed mills. The feed mills, it processes raw ingredients like grains, vegetables, and byproducts into animal feed, ensuring a nutritionally balanced and easily digestible product for livestock, poultry or aquaculture, and even pet food. Feed mills involves grinding, mixing, and sometimes pelleting raw ingredients to create a uniform and easily digestible feed. Lastly is the flour mills, a process where grain, primarily wheat, is crushed and ground to produce flour. It involves grinding the grain between stones and steel to separate the endosperm or the starchy part from the bran and germ. There are advantages of milling. The advantages of milling are that it adds value to raw agricultural products, converts grain into usable forms like flour, rice, and feeds. It increases market price and consumer demand, reduces bulk for easier transport and storage, efficient and time-saving compared to manual processing. The disadvantages of milling are that it is expensive machinery for small farmers, it requires skilled operation and maintenance, power or fuel requirement, it generates dust and noise, and of course, improper milling may lead to product losses or contamination. That is all for the importance of milling. Thank you for listening.
So let's talk about the storage equipment. So storage equipment refers to the structures, containers, and system used to safely store harvested crops, livestock feed, and other agricultural products, ensuring their preservation and availability for future use or processing. So,
let's talk about its purpose. So the purpose of storage equipment is to preserve the quality and extend the shelf life of harvested crops, ensuring food availability, stabilizing market prices, and providing a consistent supply of raw materials. So for processing industry. So let's talk about the different types of storage equipments. For the structure, we have the silos, which is used for storing bulk grains and other dry materials, and you have the warehouses, which is used for larger structure for storing a variety of agricultural products, including grains, hay, and other commodities. And then you have also the bins, which is a smaller, often portable containers for storing smaller quantities of grains or other materials. And then you have the cold storage facilities, which is a refrigerated rooms or building used to store perishable goods like fruits, vegetables, and meat. And then you have the underground storage, which is the pits or other structures dug into the ground for storing crops in dry climates. And then you have the pyramid storage, which is a stacking bags of grain in a pyramid shape or a platform often used for short-term storage in a dry areas.
Good morning to each and everyone, especially to you, ma'am. By the way, my name is Nadia Muhammad Ali Mamintal. So let's talk about the container. Container shows different types of storage container used in agriculture, such as metal drums, bags, crates, and pallets. The second section, titled Pros and Cons, lists both the advantages and disadvantages of using storage methods. So proper storage is important in agriculture because it helps keep crops safe after harvest. So as what I've said, that we have these different types of container. The first one is the metal drums. Metal drums is used for storing seeds like corn, rice, and seeds, especially those that needs to be kept dry and protected from pests. The second one is bags, is ideal for storing grains like rice, wheat, corn, as these are dry, can be packed in large quantities. Then the third one is crate, which is it is based for storing fruits and vegetables like tomatoes, apples, or potatoes, which are delicate and need ventilation to avoid rotting. The last one is the pallets. Pallet is useful for storing large quantities of produce like cabbage, carrots, and onion, allowing for easy stocking and movement inside the warehouse. So, the second part is talk about the goods and bad sides of using modern storage. So, the advantage of a container, it helps protect produce from pests, radon, and moisture. They also increase shelf life, keep the quality of the product, and let farmers store crop until they can get a better price at the market. This help reduce spoilage and losses after harvest. However, there are also some disadvantages. Modern storage system can be expensive. They also need proper management like controlling temperature and humidity. If they are not maintained well, the stored crops can get damaged. Lastly, small-scale farmers might not have enough space or money to use modern storage. In summary, using the right containers and storage system can help preserve crops, reduce waste, and increase farmers' income. But it's important to manage them well and make them more accessible to small farmers. That's all, and thank you. Wassalam.